Good morning, everybody. Welcome back for installment of Scott Selections here for Tuesday, May 17th. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had a nice winner in baseball with the Diamondbacks and Dodgers. No run first inning at plus 100 on FanDuel. Really doesn't get much easier than that. 1-2-3 inning in the top of the first, 1-2-3 inning in the bottom of the first. Nobody got on base. Picked up a nice, easy winner there. So look for another easy winner here on Tuesday. And for the play of the day, we're going to go to basketball looking at game one of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Celtics and the Heat, taking place at around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for the play, they were going to go with the Heat at home, -1.5 at -110 on FanDuel. Time of recording of 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Couple reasons why I like the Heat in this spot. First of all, Miami has been basically unbeatable at home in the postseason so far. The Heat are 6-0 straight up and 5-1 ATS in home playoff games this season. And the only ATS loss was in the series clinching game against Atlanta in round one, which is important to mention because Jimmy Butler did not play in that game. So when Jimmy Butler is in the lineup, the Heat are 5-0 straight up and 5-0 ATS at home. So I do think the Heat should fare quite nicely in front of the home crowd once again in game one of the series. Now, the main reason why I do like the Heat is because of the serious scheduling differential between the Heat and the Celtics. We know the Heat had a much easier time advancing to the conference finals after dispatching of the Sixers in 6 games, and that series concluded on the 12th, which means Miami had 4 days off leading up to game one of the series. Meanwhile, Boston had 1 day off because it had to go 7 games against Milwaukee. In fact, since the Heat wrapped up the series, the Celtics had to play an additional 2 games, Game 6 and Game 7. Of course, they won both, but now the Celtics have 1 off day for a turnaround to face off against the Heat. And simply put, I think Boston should be pretty gassed. We saw how physical the series was against Milwaukee and how difficult it was to come back from 3-2 down. I do think the Celtics will fare well in this overall series, but in game one, I expect them to be a bit flat. It's a travel spot as well. Miami's been game planning for the Celtics for about a week, and I do think it should pay dividends on Tuesday. Now, to go through the injury report, both teams are a little bit banged up. We know that the Heat will be without Kyle Lowry for game one. However, the Heat play better without him in the series against Atlanta and the series against Philadelphia. So I'm not exactly sure how valuable Lowry is. I know Lowry, of course, is a champion. He's a potential future Hall of Famer. But based on how he played through the injury and how awful he looked, I do think it might be addition by subtraction instead of forcing a shorthanded or a limited Lowry onto the court. I do think it's better off that he is not playing in game one. Meanwhile, the Celtics might be without Marcus Smart, who is questionable with a foot sprain. He seemed to tweak the injury in game 7, and according to reports, the foot is pretty sore and tender. So I think there is actually a decent chance he will be missing this overall game. Now, Smart, of course, won Defensive Player of the Year, and whether or not you think he deserved it, he is still a great defensive player, and I do think that he provides a serious amount of toughness for the Celtics as a team, not to mention the fact he can draw charges and he's kind of a pest to deal with. So I do think his absence or potential absence will be noticeable. Even if he does play, he'll be at like 50%. So I do think that he will definitely be limited if he's able to suit up. Now, Robert Williams, of course, is active once again. However, he has not played in about a week, and the Celtics really succeeded with Al Horford at center, and I am curious if inserting Robert Williams again as the de facto center might cause a little bit of growing pains because they've been so used to using Horford at the 5. Not to mention the fact that Robert Williams is still not a great offensive player by any means. So I am curious if using him at the 5 instead of Horford might hurt Boston's offense. We'll see what happens. But I am curious what role Robert Williams will have immediately in the series. Plus, to go through some trends, the Heat are really good with additional rest. And of course, one concern for not playing for about 4 days is a potential, let's just say, lackluster start based on some sluggishness or maybe even some rust. And that really has not been the case for Miami in recent years because Miami is 36-15 ATS in its last 51 games playing on 3 or more days rest. So when Miami does have a lot of time off, it tends to use that rest in a very positive way and dominate the following game. I think you should see that happen once again in game one on Tuesday. I still like Boston to really keep the series competitive, but based on the 1 day off leading up to the series and the traveling spot to Miami and the fact that Miami's been amazing at home in the postseason and the fact that Miami had ample preparation time and rest, I do think should result in a Miami victory by at least 5 points in game one. So play that once again, here for Tuesday, May 17th is going to be on the Heat, -1.5 at -110 on FanDuel. Bye, everyone.